This is the float tube rod rack I'm selling. I built this at home. It's built out of purchased PVC pipe and then 3D printed components that attach. So the only purchased components actually are this main horizontal pipe and these two poles I use for cameras. This one is set up with 3 rod holders, 1, 2, 3. The rod holders, I'll show you later, are machined so they can take a fly rod or a conventional bait caster or a spinning rod. And then there are 2 vertical holes available. I use one for a net and another one to drop a pair of pliers into. You don't have to have the cameras, of course. When I fish, I actually do go with both of these cameras. These are GoPro 5s, and so they can be voice activated, and so I can leave them running, and when I hook up with a fish, I can just say, GoPro, start recording. In the float tube, I would be here. So this camera is looking at me and the action around the float tube. This camera is up over my shoulder and looking forward at the fish coming in. It works out pretty well. Another nice thing you can do with these camera holders is they're on easy removal. So you can just pop it out and you can put it in the water, and you can use it as an underwater camera, or you can put it out in front of you and use it as a selfie cam. So that's real handy. And then you can put it back in place. I'll show you in a moment, but the cameras come with a special mount that I 3D print here, and there's actually a bubble level in here, so you can easily get your camera level with the horizon. So if you live outside of San Diego, then I would be sending you a kit to make up the camera pole instead of a completed camera pole. If you're in San Diego, then I'll make up the whole pole for you, and you can either pick it up or I'll deliver it either way. For the kit, it consists of, this is for the rear camera, that's a rear camera holder. This goes around the main horizontal pipe, and that holds the camera pole itself. It would have an end cap that's sealed, an end cap with a 1/4-20 screw. It would have a dual swivel, and it would have the GoPro mount with the GoPro screw with a bubble level on it. So that part I make, this part I make, that I make, and that's purchased. So what you'd have to do is then go get yourself a piece of 3/4 inch PVC sprinkler pipe and take the numbers off, if you want the numbers off, with acetone or sandpaper or both. You would take these and glue the cap in one end and glue the bolted end in the other, the one with the nut. And the reason for this cap is to seal it off so it's at least mostly waterproof. It isn't actually 100% waterproof, but it's pretty good, and it'll float long enough to recover your camera if you should drop it in the water. You can glue it in with PVC cement, ordinary, red grade, common stuff. You can buy the smallest container, which I think is about 4 ounces. It'll cost you about $3 to glue the 2 ends. Or you could use epoxy. Epoxy would work fine. For the front camera, it's all the same, except that the mount is a little more complicated because it's got a swivel on it, where on the rear camera it's fixed. And that's what allows you to position the height of the camera as well as swing it around this way. Now these pipes that I use are about 2.5 feet long. Home Depot sells a 2-foot length. I think that's a little bit short for this. So you probably got to buy a 10-foot length. That's the bad news. The good news is a 10-foot length is only about $3. So it's not going to cost very much. And as I say, if you're in San Diego, I'll make all this up for you, and it'll be all one part. So the essential elements here are this main horizontal tube and these 2 curved pipes I call the descenders. The descenders have bungee cords on it which hook onto D-rings underneath, and you use zip ties or you can use Velcro ties to go around D-rings up on the top of the pontoon. And later in the video I'll show this mounted up on a float tube. But for now it's easier to demonstrate it here. So I'm going to walk through what each one of these little assemblies is and how you use it, and then I will at the end walk through how you assemble one of these and adjust it. For selling, I'm selling it without this horizontal pipe and without these tubes, because the shipping of these tubes is just outrageously expensive compared to shipping all the rest of this stuff. This can be purchased at Home Depot as a 2-foot section of 1.25 inch PVC tube for a few dollars. This you can buy a 10-foot length of 3/4 inch pipe for $3 and just cut it to whatever length you like for your camera tubes. If you're here in San Diego, of course, you can buy it fully assembled because I don't have the shipping problem. Okay, and with that, we'll now get on to talking about the various pieces of this system. This is the rear camera holder. As I demonstrated at the introduction, it's just a simple knob here. Releases this and lets it go free. If you're in San Diego, you get the whole assembly. If I have to ship it, you're going to get a kit. And one of the pieces in the kit will be an end cap. And putting the end cap on is a good idea because once you seal this up, this whole thing will float, which is a very nice safety thing. If you're using it as a selfie and you drop it, your camera system will actually float and not sink to the bottom. So you can pop it in and out and tighten things up. Things don't have to be very tight. And throughout this system, I want to emphasize not to over-tighten things. I leave this about like that. It's tightened with these screws here on the bottom. But I leave it so that it's very snug, but I can actually move it to reposition it out on the water if I want to change where it is over my shoulder. So that's the bottom end, and it just to put it on, you would just loosen this all the way and slide the whole thing off and slide it back on again. So this is the upper end of the rear camera. What I will ship if I'm shipping a kit will be this fitting that you glue into this pipe, and you'll get this double ball swivel, and you get this GoPro adapter right here, and it will come with a GoPro screw. It will not come with the camera case, and it will not come with a GoPro camera. The swivel is a 1/4 inch threaded mount, so you can thread any 1/4 inch bolt into this to hold anything you like. In particular, you could get a RAM ball mount, which is a much higher quality mount than this, but they cost about 20 bucks. So you could replace all of this with a plastic RAM mount, ball mount if you wanted. This also presents a 1/4 inch stud, just like a tripod would, so anything you can bolt on a tripod can go onto this little swivel. Now the swivel isn't that big, as you can see, so you're not going to be able to put a giant video camera system up here, broadcast camera. It has to be a fairly reasonably small thing you're going to put up here. The last thing I'll comment on these swivels is they're cheap, unfortunately. To my chagrin, they looked all polished when I bought them, but they'll rust. And so if you're going to use it in salt water, especially when you get it home, you need to wash it off in fresh water and maybe spray a little oil or WD-40 on it. This is the simplest piece in the system, and it's simply a vertical pipe. It's useful as a net holder. It also forms the foundation for everything else. This one clamp right here, which I call I call it a horizontal clamp because the thing comes out horizontally. So this horizontal clamp holds a tube. It can hold a rod holder, or it can hold a fully repositionable rod holder, or it can hold both, as I do all through the system. So this is a foundational part. To adjust these, there are a couple of screws on the bottom. Again, I like this one's actually clamped down fairly tight, and they probably should be fairly tight, not over tightened, but you don't want these to move. Later, I'll show you how a very straightforward way to set all this up so that everything's aligned right when you get in your float tube. This middle rod position I've set up with 2 rods. It starts with a single rod holder. As I mentioned before, these are machined. They'll take a conventional bait caster or spinning rod, or they will take a fly rod. So a fly rod just drops right in the slot like so. Okay. And then I add to that. This one is always vertical, by the way, so you're not going to, you could, if you were using just this, you could loosen this up and rotate it out if you wished. I actually like it a lot better to just leave this one vertical as a place to just stick a rod to store it. I don't really fish with this one. It's just there for rod holding. And this is, I call the real productive rod holder because it has a pivot on it. And so, let me swing this off to the side here. So it can swing out and swing in and rotate around really easily. So in fact, you could put it out like so if you were trolling. You can't see it on the video, but these are it's a serrated edge, and so it really clamps quite easily and quite hard. and it's spring-loaded inside, so that as soon as you loosen the nut, you don't have to work it loose or get it off a cot. It just releases itself and it's ready for you to turn. I run these with the tube portion tightened so that it's snug, but not all the way, because sometimes I want to move the reel position around to a different reel position. And then I also run with this one snug down, but not tightened down hard, so I can swing the rod position around this way and it'll stay there most of the time. And then, of course, with this adjustment, you can do that. So all the adjustments on the water that you're going to do, you can do without a tool. It's this knob, or it's just pushing things around that you snugged up. I keep a screwdriver on my float tube just in case I need to do something, but I almost never do need to do that. So that's a middle dual rod position, and this is one of the most useful spots on the rod holder. And this is the front position, so I'm facing that way. This is the most often used rod holder on the system, okay, because it's the one furthest forward, and again, I leave it snug so you can rotate it around any way you want. You can actually put this on top of the camera and it might actually rotate a little bit better. So it's really easy to pull that off. There's a spacer. Pull this guy off. Well, drop the camera on. Drop the spacer back on. Put this guy here. Okay, now it can actually cross over the camera a little bit if you wanted it to. Yeah, there's a lot of configurations that you can do with this. Again, I leave things snug enough that I can rotate them and they'll stay in place, but I can still rotate them. I don't want to clamp down so hard I can't move. And this has the same sort of serrated detent, so it's really secure. It's not going to go anywhere. And as I showed on the other camera, this can be popped out just like the back camera to use it as a selfie stick if you like. I rotate it around. What I do is I rotate it around to keep it out of my way when I'm fishing. So that's the front system. Again, there's a spare hole left behind, and you can use that to put a pair of pliers into. What you could do actually is also put on a cap and put a slot in it to hold pliers a little bit better if you wanted to. These are what I call the descender tubes, and they're critical to the way the whole thing works. You don't want this to flop around on the float tube. A lot of systems I've seen, it's very difficult to maintain the angles properly so that vertical things are vertical when you're actually in the float tube. These let you do that. They are actually hinged, and you can put them on and take them off. And they're very, very strong. What's inside is a true PVC purchase tee that I split in half and then wrap around a hinge that I 3D print so that it can be hinged. And so you can move it around. So right now I've got it set up so it could swing. Normally you would not swing it. Normally it would be locked down really solidly. So up at this top end, you would use a cable tie. I use 11-inch cable ties from Harbor Freight. You get 100 of them for $3 to tie into D-rings on the upper pontoon, which I'll show in a moment when I actually put this on a float tube. The bottom has a bungee cord with a clip, and generally on float tubes you'll find a couple of D-rings underneath. And so you want to clip off to the bottom, and you want to kind of position these to kind of line up so that you can get a reasonably straight shot, but it's not that critical. These are adjustable, and so you, again, hand tightened. You can unscrew this end cap like so, and what's inside is a little tail of tube and a clip. This clip is actually one of these clips with the top end cut off. So you pop the barrel off of this, and now you can slide the cord in and out to adjust the tension. Put that back on, and hopefully you've adjusted it so that it's up against this stop when you've got this end clipped to the D-ring. And you put it back in and tighten it up, and so then each one of these D-rings, each one of these can be easily adjusted to what you want. And if over time these bungee cords die, which I don't think they will, I think they're going to last quite a long time. But if you run into that problem, this is just plain 1/4-inch bungee cord you can buy anywhere, and you can replace it, and all the fittings will fit any 1/4-inch bungee cord you find, typically at Home Depot or off of eBay or something. For initial assembly, I would start off with just this. Again, if you're a kit buyer, because you're not in San Diego, you go buy a 2-foot length of this pipe from Home Depot for a few dollars. They actually sell it in 2-foot lengths, or you can buy 10 feet if you want. I don't like all the printing numbers on the side. You can take those off typically with acetone. They should come off fairly easily. And then it needs to be roughened up with some gritty sandpaper, not sand it till it's dead, but just get the surface roughened up a little bit. And that's because it's very slick otherwise, and it's very difficult to get these to stick properly if you don't sand this to get just a little bit of a roughening on the surface. So I'd start with this 2-foot length of pipe, and then I would put in these 3 holders, what I call the horizontal holders, and put in their pipes that go in them. And then I would align them all together. In this case, I set them up vertically. And then I would clamp them down only tight enough that it's, oh, see, now that one I could move. So I would add just a little bit more pressure here. But you do not want to over tighten these clamps. So I'm going to tighten it down a little bit more. Okay, so that one's good and tight. That one's good and tight, and so is that one. So now that's it for these. You'll never adjust these again. They're vertical. What you're going to end up doing is fitting the descenders to it, to the tube, to put these in a vertical position when you actually climb in. The next thing I would do to assemble is I would actually put on the descenders curved towards the camera in this case, away from those guys. The nuts are held in keepers, but the nuts might fall out, so you've got to be careful about that. And you drop the screws in and tighten these down, not very tight. Okay, engage the screw. So I want a little bit of resistance there, but not a huge amount. And what I'm also doing is making sure that the 2 plates, the 2 ends of the screw, are keeping this thing parallel as I go. Okay, so there's one. Actually, on the float tube, I'm going to end up adjusting this position anyway. So next, I'm going to put on the other descender right in here. Now, what may happen when you get on the tube is you'll find out that something's in the wrong position. You can't get a zip tie onto a D-ring properly or something like that, and you need to slide things around. But once you've got the basic order set up, then it's easy to loosen things and slide them around. You want to maintain these guys vertically, so only loosen one at a time and slide one at a time, lock it down. Don't loosen them all and lose track of where vertical is. But at this point, I'm ready to go ahead and get on the water and do the final adjustment on the vertical position. So to attach this to the float tube, a couple of cable ties. So one around this D-ring, and one around this D-ring back here. Now I haven't adjusted the bungees for this particular float tube. So what we're going to do is we're going to clip these guys. Oh, it's actually going to work out. Put one of them right there. I'm going to stretch the other one clear down here. Normally I would go to here and I would have shortened this up, but I don't want to take the time to actually do it. Okay, and so now we're pretty secure. You'll also notice that these aren't vertical at the moment, but we're going to fix that for in the water. You can also use a Velcro strap. You can also move these aside to make room for a Velcro strap. So in the water, all you're going to need is a screwdriver, yourself, and the float tube. So here we are with all the rod holder stuff set up. I picked a bait caster, a spinning rod, and a fly rod to show you that it's real easy to use within reach, get things in and out. Net back here, pair of pliers at hand, ready to go. Easy to reach over, bring that guy down further if you want, rotate him out. Same with this. You can actually, what I tend to do is put this one out and back a little bit to keep it out of the way when I'm actually fishing. So I would put that one back here and bring it back here. And then I'd bring it back up to vertical when I was bringing the boat back on land on all of them. But as I say, everything you need to do on the water can be done without a tool. That was one of my basic goals, easy to reach the net. So there's the fishing setup. Clean out just a little bit, but that's okay. It'll be easy to adjust, or you can leave it just that way if you like it that way. Next I'll put the cameras on and you can see how they go together. So here's the camera setup. We've got a front camera, we've got a back camera. You can have one or the other, or both, or neither. This one I keep out to the side so it doesn't interfere with the area in front of you, and it shoots into here. This one is looking over my shoulder to look out in front of the boat. I got them both on the super wide angle view. They're both GoPro Hero 5s, and so they're voice activated. And so I can say, GoPro, start recording. And there they are, they started recording. So if you're fighting a fish, you can catch all the action. When you get your fish, you can hold it up to get your still shot off of the video. You have both angle views to edit if you want to put it up on Facebook. GoPro, stop recording. And so that's all there is to it. Thanks for your interest and thanks for watching.